So today we are going to deal something with Saint Clare.
She was born in 1193.
When we read about Francis in the novels of Kazantzakis and so, there is a kind of relationship being narrated by the.
That is a question that is posited by many. Friendship of travelers and a friendship of indwellers.
So welcome guys to another chat show with Father Robbie Daniel regarding the life and charism of Franciscan spirituality. So today we are going to deal something with Saint Clare. As you all know, Saint Clare is the mother of our order. So we'll have some questions with Father Robin Daniel, who is an expert in the Franciscan spirituality and so regarding the life of Saint Clare. So welcome Father to the show.
Thank you, Abin. Thank you very much.
So Father, today we are going to speak something about the life and charism of Saint Clare. So would you please enlighten us regarding the family and life of Saint Clare in its early stages?
Yeah. As you rightly said, St. Clare is part of the Franciscan Charism. She was born in 1193. There is some people who claim that she was born in 1194. Just like in the case of St. Francis of Assisi, whose birth we say 1182, some say 83. Same way here also, 93 or 94. And her parents' names were Ortolana de Fabrone. And the family was called Offroduccio family, a very well-to-do family in Assisi. Unlike Francis's family, which is a business family, this was a sort of military family. Knights and all were there. And they had a big mansion. And there were 5 children. And Clare was the third children of these 5. And according to the custom of that time, these girls had to remain in the mansion. They could not go out much and could go only to the church to attend the liturgical services. That was the situation of the early life of Clare.
So Father, I want to ask you something about meeting of Saint Clare with Francis and the life thereafter.
That is really a transitional point. You see, Francis had become rather popular by that time. He was a man well thought of and well appreciated by the community there. As a rich boy, young man, father was a businessman, Peter Bernardone, and he had gone for war against Perugia, and he wanted to become a knight, and he was lavish in spending money to entertain friends, so he was a point of attraction for everybody. And as you know, Francis takes a turn in his life after listening to the Holy Gospel and after reading the Holy Gospel in the Church of St. Niccolo. Then life changes. He forsakes everything that he considered the treasures of his life, the worldly treasures of his life. He forsakes all that. Then he goes over to preaching in the piazzas, preaching where people gather. And in 1210, Clare might have met Francis. That is when he was preaching near to the church of San Rufino. Clare could see from the window of her house the young man preaching, people flocking. And she developed a devotion and a special attraction to Francis for the new way of life that he was proposing and for the renunciations that he has made. And he was looking for a chance, she was looking for a chance to meet Francis. In 1212, on Palm Sunday, Clare had gone to the church to attend the Palm Sunday liturgy, and the celebrant was distributing the palms. Everybody goes up to the celebrant, receives the palm. Clare never moved from her place in the church. And the celebrant himself, who was a bishop, he comes down and offers the palm to her. It was very symbolic. It was a palm of martyrdom. That is, she is forsaking the old way of life and taking upon herself a new way of life, a way of life that could be perhaps a martyrdom for her. And that's the way she begins her life. And in 1212, again 1212, with her servant Bona, she slips out from her mansion, the Offraduccio mansion. Again, there is something special to know here for those mansions. Those mansions had, apart from the main door, a small door on the side there. That door would be open when somebody dies at home to take the corpse out. You get my point, you know?
Yes.
The corpse is not taken out through the main door, but through this door. So the main door was protected in the night, but this could be opened. And she slips out with her servant through that door and goes to Porciungula to meet Francis and his brothers. And they were waiting there. And Clare and her companions, or to call the servants, go and meet the brothers at Porciungula. And we believe that Francis cut her hair and received her profession. Of course, Francis is not entitled to receive a profession, but he received in his own way the profession of Clare. And now they did not know where to put these young ladies. And Francis's companions take them out to the Benedictine monastery. Clare lives there for some time. She was not comfortable there. Then she is taken to San Angelo di Panzo, another monastery. There also she was not comfortable. Finally, Clare is taken to San Damiano, where she lives for 42 years.
Yes, Father. Like when we read about Francis in the novels of Kazantzakis and so, there is a kind of relationship being narrated by the writer between Clare and Francis, like a romantic relationship. Was there any sort of such sort of relationship before she was converted or came into this way of life?
Yeah, that is a question that is posited by many. We say friendship of travelers and friendship of indwellers. Two types of friendship. Friendship of indwellers means you are looking at each other. Friendship of travelers means you are looking at a common destination. Francis and Clare, they had friendship, and that friendship was the friendship of travelers. Looking at an ideal, a gospel ideal. Together, they are looking in that direction. And that's why if you see those books printed on Francis and Clare, the cover picture you will find both Francis and Clare looking like this, not looking at each other. So this is something, a sublime friendship, not a carnal friendship. Looking at an ideal and striving together to reach that ideal. That is the point of that. Yeah. And once they are in San Damiano, others join. Her own sister joins. Later on, her mother joins her. And you require a rule to live by. A community is formed, no? And Clare says, Francis gave us a form of life. Initially, it is Francis who gives a form of life for Clare and her sisters to live. And after that, that's not over with that. At that time, the cardinal protector was Cardinal Ugolino, the cardinal bishop of Ostia and Velletri. He was the cardinal protector. and he took interest and he wrote a rule. And he based his rule on the rule of St. Benedict and on the rule of Constitution of St. Peter Damian, and himself was a Camaldosian abbot, and on the rule of Camaldosians. With all that, he formed a rule. And here you must know one thing. In 1215, we had the Fourth Lateran Council convened by Pope Innocent III. And one of the canons of the council was this, that no religious institute is entitled to write a new rule. One has to accept one of the existing rules. And you know, there were 4 existing rules. There was a Benedictine rule, there was Augustinian rule, there was the rule by Basil, there was the rule by Pachomius. And initially, Clare would take the Benedictine rule. Unlike Dominicans would take the Augustinian rule. So going like that, at the time only in, this Cardinal Ugolino wrote this rule. I told you, based on what? Based on the Benedictine rule, the Constitution of St. Peter Damian, and the Camaldosians. Based on he wrote a rule. And Clare and her sisters would follow this rule for 3 decades. 3 decades. After that, Pope Innocent IV writes a rule for the sisters and offers to Clare. But Clare was not satisfied with any of these rules simply because the privilege of poverty is not mentioned in these rules. She was adamant to live the privilege of poverty. What is privilege of poverty? Privilege of poverty means the privilege of living without any privileges. You get a bit?
Yes.
The privilege of living without any privilege. That was not seen in any of these rules. So she was not happy. Therefore, she begins to write her own rule. She writes a rule. And she gives it to Cardinal Reynoldo. Reynoldo was now the Cardinal Protector here. She hands over to Reynoldo. Reynoldo was more than satisfied because the privilege of poverty is included there, and Clare is satisfied, and Reynoldo is satisfied, and he approves this rule. But Clare is not satisfied. She wants approval from the Supreme Pontiff, and the rule is submitted to the Supreme Pontiff. That is Pope Innocent IV. And he approves this rule. He approves this rule on 9th of August 1253. And the approved rule is given to Clare, who was bedridden. She was extremely happy. She takes the new rule approved by the Pope, by the bull Sola Tanuvere, on 9th August 1253. She kisses that rule, and after 2 days, she dies. That is 11th of August 1253, she dies. Okay? Then what you would like to know?
Father, is there some other prominent writings that St. Clare had made by her own?
Her own. That is a very good question. Clare's very original and authenticated writings, we have only 5. Only 5. Unlike Francis. Francis, we have got more than 28. And who are these 5? The first is the rule that we mentioned now, no?
Yes.
Then there are 4 letters written by Clare to a noble lady who wanted to live this type of life, and her name is Agnes of Prague. There are 4 letters. And in these 4 letters, you can find the real spiritual dynamism of Clare. Beautiful letters. For every letter, there is a starting point, there is a way to follow, and there is a destination. Starting point for what? For our spiritual life. And the way to follow, to achieve. And the destination, to reach. In all the 4 letters, we get it. Unfortunately, some of her writings might have been lost. And she herself tells, I am not able to send to you more letters because there is nobody to carry the letters. You have to carry the letter. Some of the friars, when they go for begging, they are entrusted with the letters and they carry it. And these are the 5 authenticated writings by St. Clare. Then there are other letters attributed to her, her testament, her letters to another lady, that there are 4 or 5, and her blessing, but these are not authenticated. Authenticated only these 5 letters, 5 writings. And also I can tell you one more thing, Abin. When you compare the rule of Francis and the rule of St. Clare, there are some differences. Very much similar. Francis has got 12 chapters, Clare has got 12 chapters. More or less the wordings are similar. One very striking point is, when a candidate is come to join our way of life, Francis gives the permission to receive that candidate only to the Minister General or to the Minister Provincial. You get the point?
Yeah.
But Clare gives that permission to the abbess after consulting her community. See the difference?
Yeah, that's a great difference.
Consult the community, very democratic. And then abbess. Francis doesn't give that. It is exclusively vested with the general or the provincial. That one difference is there. Also, another difference that we find is Francis's rule after the 4th chapter gives the impression of friars as pilgrims and strangers in this world. But Clare resists and requires to remain in the cloister. Anything else, Sabine, you want
Father,
to know?
I would like to ask one more thing. As Clare is known as the mother of our order, in what way has she been relevant to the Franciscan charism?
Correct. That is a good question, definitely. She is known as the little plant of St. Francis. Little plant of St. Francis. Even as Francis disappeared from this world, the friars began to live a more lax life. And that's how the divisions come in.
Yeah.
They began to compromise on the ideals. They began to interpret the teachings of Francis to suit their convenience. But Clare remained adamantly loyal to the teachings of Francis. When the friars withdrew from the ideal, only person who remained loyal, utterly loyal to the ideals of Francis was Clare. That is the beauty of her. Also, in parenthesis, I can say, when Leo was writing all about the life of Francis and all those things, he would entrust those writings with Clare only, not with the friars, because she was loyal to the ideals of Francis. She only kept those ideals alive in the Franciscan order. That's why we say she is very much connected with the Franciscan way of life. Also, one more point I would like to, for current information. Now, we find so many cloistered convents and cloistered nuns we find,
Yeah.
whether it is in Ceylon, whether it is in Mangalore, whether it is in Ernakulam. That's not the real second order. The real second order for you to know is one near the provincialate of
Alwaye, right?
Alwaye. the provincialate of St. Thomas province. That is second order. And again, that particular convent or the monastery was the monastery of the Capuchins.
Yeah, it's
It was the
interesting.
monastery of the Capuchins. It was our philosophy house. In 1942, when these sisters from Burma were expelled by the communist government there, they had nowhere to go. And at the request of our major superiors, we handed over the whole monastery with all the property to the second order sisters, our own sisters. And we rejoice in that. And we thank God that we got that chance to implant the second order in India. Okay, Ebin, have I made myself clear to you?
Yeah, that was a quite great information, sir. So it was a good time sharing with you. And I think it has sufficiently enriched us regarding St. Clare.
Very
So that
good.
was a very valuable time. So thank you, Father, with all respect and with all due respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Abin. You were quite intelligent and quite inquisitive to know deeper into the life and mission of St. Clare. I thank you for your very cooperative interaction. Also, we remember with gratitude our brothers who are behind the scene,
Yeah, definitely.
organizing and executing, and let the Franciscan charism flourish.
Grow, right? Yeah.